This is Robert Augustus, and here is the Hunter Blackfathom Depths Raid Encounter Guide. The goal of this guide is to clearly show all the bosses in the BFD 10-man raid from a Hunter perspective, to inform you about important mechanics, and to share tips on how to clear the raid while improving your DPS, which should help your chances of getting that sweet loot, including the epic crossbow off the final boss, Aquanis. Hunters are performing very well in this raid at this level bracket. You should be competitive with melee DPS like rogues and warriors, as well as casters, and you can provide the Heart of the Lion buff, which is equivalent to King's, and heavily sought out on the Horde side. In the first lockouts, it was discovered that Scorpids were doing huge amounts of damage with their poison ability due to the changed pet scaling in Season of Discovery. Wind Serpents also benefited from the scaling, and once Scorpids were sufficiently nerfed, the Serpents reigned supreme, until the hotfix, which changed how kill command functions, and limited the rune to only buffing Bite and Claw. Wind Serpents remain strong, especially on fights where physical DPS suffer, but now 2.0 speed cats and raptors can be used with flanking strike builds that intend to melee weave, especially if you've acquired a slow speed two-handed weapon from the raid. Before we cover the encounters themselves, you need to know how to get to the raid and what to do before. Horde should get the Zoram Strand flight path well before your raid group. And for Alliance, the walk from Darkshore or Astronaut is not nearly as bad. If you start in Thunder Bluff, you should wait for a boon of Blackfathom to be dropped, and if the Darkmoon Fair is in town, make sure to grab that 10% damage from Sayge as well before popping your Chronoboon to store both for your raid. Once your group is assembled and you've arrived at the entrance, make sure to go in together on PvP servers to avoid losing stragglers or world buffs to the enemy faction. After jumping down and taking a short swim, on your immediate left, you can go up to this spot to perform a logout skip. This will put you and your raid right at the entrance portal when you log back in. Make sure to position your character as you see here, where the crack in the rock hits the top of the water. If you do this correctly, you'll skip all of the trash before the portal and walk right in. The first encounter is Baron Aquanis. You may have seen footage of this fight from BlizzCon, but if not, you should know it involves a small jumping puzzle, and if you get knocked off the boss platform from the debuff he places on random raid members, you will have to navigate your way back to the boss while avoiding the swirls which suck you into the water, and using the air bubbles for swim speed. The main thing to consider here for hunters is how pets interact with the boss's platform. If you summon your pet before jumping on to the same platform the boss is on, your pet will not be able to find a path to attack Baron Aquanis. You're going to miss out on a lot of damage. Also, make sure you avoid pulling the boss before the final elemental is killed, as members of your raid might still have the debuff, and as soon as you run in to attack the boss, you could get knocked off the platform, and the whole start of the fight will be in jeopardy. If you kill this boss quickly enough, you can avoid getting knocked off the platform at all. Also, keep in mind that Aquanis is immune to poisons, so abilities like Scorpid Sting and your pet's Scorpid Poison are not going to work on this fight. Ghamoo-ra is the second encounter in BFD, and this fight is very punishing for physical DPS. Wind Serpents perform better on this turtle boss because of the Aqua Shell ability. This ability reduces the physical damage taken by the boss until 100 instances of damage have occurred. When the shell breaks, large raid-wide damage will go out. The boss spawns bubbles all across the platform, which will restore mana, but also damage players who step on them. Avoid hitting these bubbles right before the boss's shell breaks, or the damage combined with the raid-wide AoE might be enough to one-shot you, especially if your gear level, you don't have a lot of stamina. This boss includes a tank swap mechanic, so if you're running the Beast Mastery rune, you should macro your pet taunt ability, and it might come in handy. If your tank dies during the shattering of the shell, you could potentially taunt and soak stacks of the debuff, and this might allow your raid to complete the encounter even just with one tank or if someone dies. Lady Sarevess is the third encounter in the BFD raid. She is accompanied by an ad, which you can cleave down, but be aware that the boss will cast a freezing arrow ability. This is going to leave graphics similar to a Hunter Frost trap on the ground. If you walk through this, you're going to be entombed in a block of ice, and this ability also affects pets. A free action potion is going to negate this ability for pretty much the whole fight, depending on how fast you kill the boss. Pet's still going to be able to get frozen while you're using a free action potion, but it will allow you to run in and melee weave, or you could just completely ignore this mechanic. The only way to avoid your pet getting frozen is to try and coordinate with how the tank moves the boss around, because the placement of the boss is going to be critical for whether or not your pet is entombed in the ice. After you down the third boss, and before you clear Gelihast the Murloc, you can find this altar of teleportation off to the left. You might have to clear some trash, and there's sometimes a chest, although I think this has been hotfixed out. This will allow you to quickly run back after a wipe and get right back to where you were. It also has an invisible NPC next to it, which will allow you to repair your gear but not sell anything from your bags. So you won't have to be hurting out and summoning back people with broken weapons if you end up having a couple deaths. The fourth encounter in Blackfathom Depths is Gelihast. This Murloc boss has multiple phases, as he will take full damage until about 10% when he runs to his altar to regain health. While the boss is healing, shadow Murlocs will dance around the room, damaging anyone unlucky enough to run into them. The boss takes reduced damage during the March of the Murlocs, so you want to save your mana and cooldowns for the damage phase afterwards, but you still want to be running around and proccing your quick shots if you have the improved aspect of the Hawk. Buff will provide you a damage increase when the boss phases back. After the Frogger phase, the boss is going to spawn tentacles, which you can choose to cleave down, or focus, or even avoid if you feel like your group has enough damage to burn the boss fast enough. Lorgus Jett is the fifth encounter in BFD, but this boss begins with a small gauntlet event. You must first kill these priestesses at each barrier to advance while cleaving the larger ad and the Murlocs which spawn and attack raid members. And you also need to interrupt the priestess casts to prevent the heal from going out. Once the boss runs in, you need to prepare for the corrupted lightning shield totem. This is when you should switch, or else you're going to take damage while you're on the boss, and your raid can kill these totems quickly and then everyone can switch back. Corrupted Molten Fury totems summon a fiery boulder, which is going to fixate on a member of your raid or pet and leave a trail of fire on the ground. Your tanks should be aware of this and should adjust the boss's position accordingly, but be aware that if they run out of room, they might have to quickly kite the boss through your dead zone. This is going to make it tough to perform your rotation, so you're going to want to move around between auto shots and just ensure your proper spacing here. The sixth, and perhaps most difficult encounter in Blackfathom Depths, is Twilight Lord Kelris. In Phase 1, range should stack and drop the Shadow Crashes as far away from melee as possible. After 8 seconds into the fight, boss is going to sleep the two closest raid members, sending them into the Dream Realm, where they must kill ads as fast as possible to spawn a portal which when right-clicked will send them back to the rest of the raid. Once a player is slept, they cannot be sent back to the Dream Realm. At 35% health, the final phase begins, and the boss is no longer interruptible. The raid should now spread, as Mind Blast does AoE damage. If your raid is having trouble with shadowy chains, or healing in general, consider pre-popping shadow protection potions, and using free action potions during the fight to avoid the shadowy chains debuff entirely. Akumai is the seventh and final encounter in BFD. You must light the braziers after Kelris to open the doors and clear some turtle ads in order to enter the boss's chamber. Akumai has a huge hitbox, and throughout the fight will do corrosive and void blasts in a cone, so you may need to run into your dead zone at times to avoid damage from the boss's mechanics. Ads will spawn when your tank cleanses in the pools. You can help cleave these ads, but focus on the boss and continue to dodge blast abilities depending on which direction the boss is casting them in. If you manage to kill Akumai, you have around a 5% chance at the epic crossbow, and you should be aware this boss also drops the blue gun, the Baal Modan blunderbuss, which comes with 6 agility and 2.5 speed. So that concludes the Hunter Blackfathom Depths raid encounter guide. I'm sure I'm going to be making another one of these next phase, so you guys can look forward to that for Gnomergan, which I think is confirmed at this point to be the level 40 raid. And glad I got this one out before Christmas, and I look forward to making more videos for you guys, so definitely stay tuned to the channel and look forward to those coming out here in the next month. I'm probably going to take a little break over the holiday because I got to pack up my computer in the next couple hours here and get on the road. But after, December 31st, you could expect more videos, and we're going to keep rolling and keep leveling up, and hopefully we get some PvP videos maybe in January that'll tide us over until the level 40 cap, and that should keep everybody interested. So we're going to have fun with that, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope this really helps you out, and get out there and get those crossbows, because I don't have mine yet.
These Earthers ain't gonna let us out, man. No. They ain't never gonna let us out. We just built by the machine. Hey, just like all them other belters back there, yeah?